Ladies, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by an inspiring entrepreneur, beauty expert, and faith driven businesswoman, Chrissy LaRoque. She's the founder of Glory Glo, a thriving spray tanning business that started in Newport Beach and has now expanded into Scottsdale, Arizona. Chrissy's journey is more than just about beauty, it's about faith, transformation, and purpose. She took a leap of faith, rebranded her business, and built something that's not only helped women feel confident and comfortable in their skin, but also serves a platform for empowerment. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Ashleigh. So good to be here.
So, Chrissy, take us back to the very beginning when you jumped headfirst into your tanning business. What inspired you to start in the beauty industry?
Well, going back to the business and what inspired me, I actually worked at a tanning salon in high school. Not a lot of people know this. And so for people trying to like guess my age, 38. So 2005 is my point of like tanning beds were the thing then.
Mm,
And back then, spray tanning just started getting to become something because tanning beds were the main like sale, and then spray tanning was like catching on. So in high school, my point is I started to learn how to spray tan actually, and here's a perfect example. So this is one of my airbrush guns. I don't know if you
oh,
can
yeah.
even see how tiny that little tiny hole is. This is pretty much, and then it had like a long, long cord. This is pretty much how I would spray tan people's entire bodies. And this today, I used to do detailed contouring. So this is not to spray the entire body. So to have that
Interesting.
visual,
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm learning something here now.
so to have that visual, I learned back in the day, like the OG of spray tanning to like
Yeah.
give you perspective. And I never thought that in high school, working at a tanning salon, I also worked at Old Navy. Like I've been doing, like I've wanted to work since I was 14. I worked for my dad actually at his security company when I was 14.
Mm.
I've always known I wanted to work and I love it. Um, like it's just innate in me. Like my dad had his own business, started from scratch. So I saw my dad growing up work really hard and build a really successful business in our small town. So then in
Mm.
high school, I was like, I want to make that kind of money, which obviously I didn't make that kind of money in high school, but I wanted to buy my own thing. Like I figured
Yeah.
out my dad could buy nicer things by a certain point, right?
Yeah.
So when I learned the tanning world, I was like, okay, this is super cool because I love the aesthetic of a before and after. Like I don't know about you, but I'm such a before and after girly. When I see like on TikTok or Instagram, when I see a before and
Hmm.
after, hair, makeup, outfit, weight loss, fitness, when you see your before and after, it's to me the most highest and fastest selling point. You're just like, oh my gosh, how do they do that? I want more. You know what I mean?
No, I
So,
agree. 100%.
right?
Hmm.
So for beauty, it's always been about how can I see things visually to the arts perspective and make it the most natural, glowy, and makes one feel really good. Because I liked that feeling of when I was spraying people back in high school and them being like, oh my gosh, like their body felt good, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
As much as I'm for plastic surgery and all of that, as in make yourself feel good for yourself, not to completely change yourself,
Mm.
um, I saw spray tanning and beauty world as not a permanent thing, but something that you could do to make yourself feel the most natural in that glowy beauty world. It wasn't
Mm.
as a very vain thing. And some people think just because you want makeup, it's vain. I actually think opposite. I think you're taking care of yourself, and it says about how you feel inside. So when I graduated from high school, I went to school for fashion and I traveled the world being a fashion buyer. And that honestly was so freaking cool. And then when I was working in those corporate jobs, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, why am I working so much for this person and making them so much money? Because I was the closer for a lot of these big companies. I was selling through these big lines to the big retail stores in like UK. And that's like kind of my aha moment where I was like, okay, this is where I came from. This is what I know. I grew up with a dad that did this. What am I really good at that I can make the highest margin with the lowest startup costs?
Oh, I like that.
Spray tanning. People like have no idea. And that's why I teach. I still have, an online academy now, but that was kind of my aha moment when I realized what I did in high school was actually my true passion over this like luxurious life of traveling the world and meeting these amazing people, which to this day, I'm so grateful for the opportunities in corporate that I had. But there was this like pivotal point where I was dating this guy and he was like, you don't need corporate. Like, I got you. Like, you don't need to do this. Like, I got you. So I quit my corporate job that I was making really good money at. And I was like, okay, this guy's got me. Like, we're good, right? No, we're not good. He became an alcoholic.
Oh shit.
Well, actually, he hid that from me. I should like back that up. He hid that from me, and that was like because my parents didn't have alcohol in our house my entire life. It was like a dry house my entire life. My dad didn't drink, my mom didn't drink. I never saw alcohol from age 0 to 18 when I graduated to college. So I've never seen the tendencies, is my point, of an alcoholic. And alcoholics, if you've been around one, anyone watching this, they're very charming and very good liars. So he hid that from me for a really long time until I was like, yo, like waking up to some, Tito's vodka with a little splash of this at 9 a.m. is probably not healthy.
It's not the best way.
It's not the best way, Ashleigh. I think that might be my side to start talking about this problem he might have. And then he confessed to me that he's had it for years, and he had relapsed when he met me, and I was like, awesome. But because it's definitely not cool. You're like, awesome.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, because there's a long story with him and dating and his separation with his wife. But what I had to choose at that moment is this man had asked me to stop my corporate job that I was making a lot of money from to take over this mortgage of a house in Newport Coast. And if you know the prices of things in Newport Coast, it's like
it's real nice. It's nice. Yeah.
It's not nice when one person has to pay the bills. And so I did not know what to do. I was freaked out because I was like, well, I don't have a job. This guy, I literally am dropping off at Betty Ford in Palm Springs to go to rehab. And what am I going to do? So I went to the cemetery to my dad's in Washington. If you can't tell, I'm really close with my dad. And I talked to him about it, and I was like, Dad, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't want to go back to corporate. I freaking hated it. And the guy that I was dating was like, you don't need this anymore. And I got that feeling like when you leave corporate, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't need this. Like, this is horrible. I'm making so much money for these people.
You're like, I'm free. Yeah.
But that's when it dawned on me that I was like, oh my gosh. In high school, I learned this like really cool skill set that is really popping right now in this amazing town called Newport Beach. And from my car, because I, have my mobile business, I literally started catering to figuring out social media. I was on social media, I remember, while he's in rehab on my laptop, like researching, how to get influencers to get my spray tan. Like I was studying social media like it was going out of style. I was figuring out how to get people's attention, how to organically really reach my avatar and the people I wanted to speak to. And that's where the work came from. I knew what I was really good at, and that was transformation, but also making people from inside good. Like we want you to feel good inside. So that's kind of how it all started from your question.
My next question was going to be that at what point did you know that you were going to be an entrepreneur? But I feel like you answered that when you said in high school.
Yeah, high school was it. I knew for a fact what college I was going to. I knew in middle school almost. I always loved seeing things from nothing. Like I love the underdog, like the underdog girls and guys. I'm like, at first always like, they're not cool or whatever. But like when you're rooting for the underdog, because it's just a cool thing to see from like nothing compared to the obvious,
Building it in Newport Beach, highly competitive market. What helped you stand out?
What helped me stand out, I feel like, was building genuine relationships and friendships. I really fast learned that I had to be social. And as
Yep.
friendly and happy, like outgoing that I seem, I'm actually not. Social. I'm not as extrovert as people think. I'm very friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I understood what you meant.
Like that just came out so bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh shit.
You get what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
think a lot of entrepreneurs are actually more, not so much like 100%, but they're more introverted than they are
Yeah, I
extroverted.
agree. Yep.
So to that like equation almost, if like you were to visualize this, I feel like this is how I am and a lot of entrepreneurs is we're more on the inside introverts. But why I learned really fast I had to be social is I found groups of people that were in networking, in business that I aligned my goals with. And I was like, I like that person and what they're pushing off like on socials. Like they're saying key things that I was like, ooh, that's like my style too. So
Hmm.
I put myself in these groups and these networking groups and these events and I made myself go to things that I probably would never just go to, but because of the people and our alignment was very much similar, my
Mm.
extroverted side was able to come at a peace with them. And so we just got each other. So business to
Yeah.
business relationships just grew with me for that. So that was like a big part of it.
Mm. You decided to rebrand
Yes.
when you relocated?
Yep. When I relocated.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's a big transformation for a business to go through. What were the hardest parts about of that?
Um, Honestly, it was me deciding if it was going to make sense to be like for myself. Like, am I going to feel good with a different name? Am I going to feel good with, um, like sometimes I still actually, it's so weird actually you asked that. Like I still almost feel like I want my old name sometimes because
Oh, interesting.
yeah, not that I would ever change it because my business is called Glory Glo 2G, which means glory to God, and that's what the 2G is. And
Mm.
so I'm very happy with my name and my rebranding, but I think it's because of how hard I worked to get myself business when I first started from now, like my car literally, and out of like that crazy situation that I I almost miss that hustle in me sometimes, and that's what bronze fetish was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
Like,
the
get it?
it's like the relentless drive of getting something off the ground. I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about. It's a weird feeling. It's like when you're at the beginning of it, it doesn't feel good. Like
no,
nothing about trying to get a business off the ground feels good.
yeah,
But when you look back at it, you're like, oh, but that was like kind of the best part.
yes, yes, 100%. And that's where, I live here now in Scottsdale, so my, name change, the hardest part was just being okay with being in more so a new state, to be honest. The name change was
Mm.
really easy for me because I felt it. Like I felt when I moved here that God was like, you are no longer bronze fetish. Like it worked for
Mm.
you, it was great. Um, but that's not who you are. And so I felt
Yeah.
good on all of that. It's just getting used to, like we were talking about, earlier, just it's a different girl here. I like the Glory Glow girl. I'm still trying to figure her out. My avatar is, these stay-at-home moms or um single women that are like working their booties off and they have, that maintenance schedule that they're doing. Um, but it's a different in different states. So I think I'm trying to get comfortable with seeing if the Glory Glow girl fits the area I'm in. Um, just because bronze fetish was not so easy for me, but because I think I worked so hard to like build her. Um, Once it kind of just became full circle, it was like, of course, like this is my brand. And here it feels really good. It's just there's a lot of what's the right word? There's a lot of women that I don't feel like I align with here. So I don't know if
Mm.
my brand makes sense to them either. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It's like an identity shift as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big one. So I love my brand. I love what it stands for. I love the name change. The hardest part is just, I think, adjusting, like
Mm,
adjusting to new brand, new name, new state.
mm. But same service and same expectations, which makes it,
Yeah.
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 You often talk about how business is more than just service, and you've mentioned God essentially telling you when it's time to change something, especially like with the name.
Yeah.
How do you integrate faith into your business and use it to help empower other women?
Ooh, good question. How do I integrate faith into my business and empower other women? I think the best part is people can kind of see when you have a light and they
Mm,
start to ask questions compared to like, I've never been a Bible thumper. In fact, I ran away from church for quite a long time.
mm,
But I grew up in it. My grandpa was a pastor, and I had a great upbringing with it. But there was a point where I was like, I didn't like some aspects of maybe my life. And so I didn't want to step into a church that was going to tell me that I couldn't have that kind of life anymore. But
fair.
as you get older, you're like, actually, that's what saved me. So I need church.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Good
need you, God,
idea.
you
Yeah.
know? But I think my online academy is the most empowering because, like, for example, I had a student yesterday. She, you can tell when someone has just started their business and they're like, what do I do? I'm doing like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I'm like, do you ever talk on camera? Like, do you ever like hold up your phone and like talk to your audience or anything like that? Even though that's technically on Instagram going out of style, I recently learned on YouTube. But my point is, dang it. But it's just not a thing, I guess, anymore. But what I was trying to get across to her, because she's never even like talked camera to camera or face to camera, was empowering her to feel good enough. Because I asked her, I'm like, how come you never have? And she's like, I just feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't feel like I look good. And I'm like, do you have kids? And I knew she did. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, do you not respond to them when they ask you like for help or like they need something? And she's like, of course. I'm like, so you need help right now with your business, right? Don't you think that your audience deserves to see you show up and like want to maybe help you with your business, like get your service, like you're doing a disservice to yourself by
Mm,
not showing up. And she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about it like that. And I'm like, you know what I do sometimes? Like when I first started mine, I would talk to myself in the bathroom when I'm brushing my teeth or when I'm doing my makeup, and I would look at myself in the mirror and get comfortable hearing my voice, which is so awkward and so weird, but I'm like, you can't do something until you just do it and think that it's a fear. Like you have to decide if you're gonna let that fear, overcome itself or you become over it. And so
100%.
this morning she tagged me in one of her Instagram stories and Facebook stories, and it was her talking to the camera. She's like, I did it. And I said, look at that. I'm like, how did that feel? And she goes, oddly enough, so regular. And I said, weird, huh? So like just doing it, you literally just overcame that fear. And she's like, yeah, I feel really good. So like that's just a perfect example is through my academy, I feel like because I'm teaching them these like sections of education, empowerment, marketing, these like little things that just maybe a typical course wouldn't teach you because it's one-on-one with me. It's
Hmm.
very empowering because it's another girl to girl being like, girl, like I was there, I get it, but I want you to thrive. So yeah.
Did you launch your academy when you relocated to Scottsdale?
No, no. Well, yes, I did the academy more so when I moved to Scottsdale because
Mm,
I needed something more remote. But I've always had like my boot camps and my trainings in person when I lived in Orange County. And that actually came out of literally, I don't know how, but that's just how you know you're an entrepreneur.
yeah.
Um, Nikki Truby's husband at the time, or boyfriend, he reached out to me and was like, hey, I see you like being a really good like mentor and teacher, because you constantly posting about spray tanning and like the education part of it, like with what people should know. Have you have you sold courses or like trainings before? And I was like, actually, I've been thinking about it. And he's like, how much? Like I'll buy one for my girlfriend for Valentine's Day or like something like that. I want her to learn spray tanning. So like
Mm.
literally my first $2,000 like training course was like sold right there. Like it's just crazy that you gotta just keep doing stuff, especially when you think, you might not like be good at it or like whatever it is, like whatever that fear is, and people will be asking you for it because I
You
did
just got to do it.
yeah. So my academy that's more so focused now online, I've been doing for a while in Orange County, but not as like I'm pushing it a lot more now.
What do most people misunderstand about the spray tanning industry?
Most people misunderstand that if you get spray tanned, you're gonna be orange. It's
I
just
feel
like
that.
common. It's the most common thing that it's because it's undereducated. Not enough people
Yeah.
understand how DHA works, low quality. Like it's just the fear of being orange is the most, I would say.
Is there an art to creating like the perfect experience for somebody?
Yeah, I think there is the art. I think um it has to do with the person that is leading. So for example, that's why I teach my students like the confidence part. The concierge is a word I like really hit on when I'm teaching because when you go somewhere or when you're expecting something in a more luxurious setting, they use a concierge. And so
Mm.
when I teach my students, I say, you're creating concierge service. So you definitely want to make sure you're doing these extra things that I list in like the secret sauce, to make it feel like it's a concierge service every single time, even if it's like the 10th time seeing a client, you are there because they're paying more and you create an experience for them.
Yeah, so it's no longer just a service, it's a I'm coming in for an experience with a service.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Have you found that's what helped your business as well? Instead of just being come in, let me spray tan you, it's come in and let me treat you differently.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's what I learned early on when I was doing the research at like, 2 a.m. I got lots of time while my boyfriend's in rehab. But like literally, I need to write a book. But it's
Do
just
it. Do it.
I keep telling myself I'm going to. My hairstylist the other day was like, "You didn't write a movie now." But
Aim high.
this
Forget the book. Aim for the movie.
right?
Book can come after the movie.
100%. Um, yeah, when I was doing the research, I just knew because I've always been service oriented. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, spray tanning in high school, you're servicing someone. Working at Old Navy in retail, you're servicing someone sizes, grabbing stuff, and especially like back in the day, service is, in my opinion, it surpasses any product. So
Mm.
if someone brings like this drink to me and they bring it in a certain way, like they get like a napkin and they like open it up and then they have like the straw with like the thing on top of it and they place it
Yeah.
in, they give it to me compared to a person that just is like, this is really good. I will pay more for the person or I want that experience compared to the person that just like said how good the product was and it might be really good, but I liked and preferred the way the person serviced me with that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So I've always preferred that. My point is to myself. I've always preferred that type of industry of service over someone that's just like talking about like it's really good. I want the nice, fancy, luxurious part of it. So I thought if I'm going to have the price points I have, because I do have the higher price points in my industry, I'm going to make sure that everything that I do and teach and everything that I do is a higher end feeling. And I make sure that I reiterate that part as I'm doing the service
Mm.
to my clients. So it's kind of ingrained in them that, oh my gosh, like I hear this probably, I would say, 8 out of 10 times with my clients when I do certain things. In my service, for example, I have these little like plastic baggies that are like super tiny like this. They look like something else, but I just realized that.
Yeah.
But then I have these little stickers that have aftercare instructions. So what
Oh,
I'll
I
do,
like that.
yeah, so after every client, what I'll do is I also have a very specific setting tanning powder so they don't feel sticky. It helps them not perspire because I can't
Mm.
have centered on the clients that day. So because I tell clients things to not do or do to help make their spray tan last longer, I also provide concierge service to doing extra little things that they're like, oh, I didn't have that happen before. I put their excess powder. So if I don't use all of their setting powder, I put it in here with the sticker that has their aftercare and they go home with that. So there's just like these little things that I teach and I do that set me apart that, I mean, yeah, it might cost a little bit more, but in the end, they're not going to forget it because no one else is doing that.
I like that. I like it a lot. What was the toughest moments in your business where you questioned if you could keep going? And how did you push through?
Wow. One of the toughest moments, honestly, would probably be while I was distracted with being engaged. I think that is something a lot of women, especially in business, don't really think about enough. I think men set aside emotion so much better than us women. And it usually hurts us women more in the end as far as business goes because the men are able to like compartmentalize. Oh my gosh.
They can split it apart.
Because they're so better. Like, I don't know what it is about us females, but I mean, I think it's a gift too because we're empathizers and we can feel things before men do. So that's a plus. But I was putting, I feel like, my relationship, and that's a hard balance to begin with, before parts of my business that I needed to put up here. Like clients would be messaging me like, hey, can I have this appointment? I don't see it available on the books or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, I'm like fully booked, which I'd be fully booked, right? But then I would have something with him that he needed me at, but it was for his business. And I, to this day, will say that's probably like my biggest lesson I've learned is until I have a ring on my finger, the papers are signed, I've been with the man for a solid year, like married to, nothing's going to come before my business if it's still my own. If I choose to set it aside and I'm like, sold it off and I've like made hundreds of millions, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
that has been prioritized because that's so important to me. And I'm in my marriage and I'm like, I can give this a break. But I think what my point is a lot of women do is they don't do that. And it just hurts us in the end. So that was probably like the hardest time is I started to let my business kind of like, it's okay. And then I had to pick it back up after I got divorced because I was like, oh my gosh, like people have wondered like if I was available for things I wasn't available for. And so now I got to let them know I'm available, you know?
So not essentially not allowing something else to become before your business.
Yeah, 100%. I learned that the hard way.
Would this also be your largest lesson that you had to learn?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I just think like it's kind of like the friend thing too. You know, when you like, well, it's a little bit difficult sometimes, but when you, let's say, are in a longer term relationship of dating a guy, you, for some reason, all of a sudden your BFFs or some of the girlfriends that you saw, you don't see them as much because you're spending more time with the guy. And I also see this with some friends sometimes where I'm like, hello. And, you know, you're like, I was the girl that you were like hanging out with for quite a while and you didn't have a dude, but now that you have a dude, you kind of disappeared. And I think, again, us women prioritize men sometimes over relationships and friendships, business, and other things. And we have to not balance, because I don't think there's true balance in life, to be honest. I think we just have to decide what's our purpose. And if your purpose is your business and helping empower other women, that needs to be your sole focus. And the right partner will see that and they're not going to let that interrupt, you know?
I agree with that too, actually. And it goes for either or, right? For men and women.
Yeah.
Being able to coexist together in each other's lives, not dictate how each other lives their lives. Yeah, I agree with that too.
It's hard.
Yeah, I agree. How did you handle moments in your business when it was slow or clients weren't coming in as expected? So assuming like winter time or summer times.
Yeah. I think it's like the most underrated topic for the beauty industry.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, and that's how I maintain my business during slow months, to answer your question. But to that point, what I did at this conference called Slay the Spray. I was speaking at this event and I was like, listen, like a lot of people are going to talk about this, but I'm going to. I'm like, there are slow seasons in our industry, and you got to figure out when your peak seasons are and when your slow seasons are, because it's just natural. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to double down during your peak seasons. So during your peak seasons, what are you doing to know that in like, let's say 3, 4 months during these low seasons, you're able to like have not had as busy of a week. And so I think of like they're called making activities. So what are you going to be doing during those slow seasons to generate that busy like feeling? Like some people get depressed during those times. So what are you going to be doing to make money? What are you going to be doing to reach out to people? What are you going to do organically? You're going to write handwritten letters to your clients that you had, those 3 months ago, and be like, hey, do you want to throw like a spray tan party? Hey, do you want to like XYZ? What are you doing that's like more on the genuine side? So I was talking about the conference because I'm like, it's very natural. So during slow seasons, I think of the most organic ways to reach back out to people that may not remember you, or they may like there's like a lost touch base thing. Because for some reason, and like this is like a trick I teach in, or a tip I should say in my students, is people never forget handwritten letters. Like they just don't forget them. So
Yeah.
it's not that they're obligated then to use your business, but they're gonna refer you if they're not gonna use your business. So they're always gonna be like, oh my gosh, that was such a nice letter from Kristen at Glory Glo. I'm not like needing a spray tan right now, but I know Becky's getting married in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna give her like her information. Just like
Yeah.
those simple things.
Yeah. People like to feel special because it feels
Yeah.
amazing. But
Yes.
we remember the things that, because technology is so intertwined within our lives, having something that's like tangible or like letters, cards, anything, thank yous, it feels special.
Yeah, it's crazy how the human effect is just something that will never go away. So like
Mm,
with AI and technology, they're saying, people's positions and jobs aren't going to go away is what they were correcting on this like thing I was listening to recently. They're going to change and evolve. So it's
yeah.
like if that is some people's fear, okay, what are you doing? So yeah, maybe technology and stuff is going to change. Or what are you doing to create the human effect still? Because people want the human effect and it's not going to go away. So I always, always try to double down on the human effect during slow season and get like ready for it. So you have to know your numbers. You got to know what your peaks are, what your slow seasons are. Because if you don't, slow season's going to come and you're going to be like now trying to write the letters, which is a great thing, but you should have known like what you need to make up in your peak seasons for preparation on those slow seasons.
Mm, I like that. I like that. Did you ever have to pivot at a time where things didn't look like they were going to go to plan, or the strategy didn't seem like it was working?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I've worked like 2 or 3 jobs at times when I was like, okay, like I need to like invest more money in my business. And I've not, knock on wood, I have not had any investors in my business yet. And I've
Yeah.
recently actually looked at possibly doing that. But owning your own business, your own equity is so important if you ever do want to scale and sell. And so I've had 2 to 3 jobs during my business because I had to put back even more money into my business because I wanted to keep evolving it. I launched my own private label product. I'm literally doing everything by myself and I'm not asking for any extra loans or money or anything like that just
Mm.
because I want to keep it as clean as possible. But you will get to a point where loans will be your best friend, and I've decided if that's like my next step or if I just want to continue on what I'm doing right now. So yeah, there have definitely been.
How did you manage consistency then, being able to show up for yourself if you're working 2 to 3 different jobs, plus being able to show up in your business for your clientele because it's face to face, it's you giving effort. I've tanned people before, and holding that gun for a long period of time is exhausting. So how did you hold consistency during that time?
Consistency, I just knew that feeling I had when I lost that closeness with my clients during my engagement with this person I was dating. And
Hmm.
I held on to that feeling that I knew I didn't want to have again. So knowing I needed to show up in order to keep that relationship was literally what it was for me. Like once you get that
Mm,
feeling that you're like letting down clients, you won't do it again.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's like that disappointment, like you're disappointing somebody, which is the
yeah.
worst feeling. Like disappointing somebody is worse than somebody being mad at you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
because they're not technically mad at you.
No, they're
They're
just
just
disappointed.
yeah. And when you hear that, like in
Mm,
general life, you're just like,
yeah.
yeah. You don't want that. You don't want that
No,
feeling.
never. What mindset shifts did you have to make in as your business grew?
Um, Competition is your best friend.
Oh, I like
And
that.
yeah, I think that a lot of people in the entrepreneurial world look at, oh my gosh, there's so many other business owners that are doing the same thing I'm doing. And I always break it down to when you go into a gas station and you look at what type of water you want. How many waters are there? A fuck ton. Like
So many.
there's so many water options. And I love going and seeing what the coolest, newest, or like the most clean lines are. Like, I love seeing all the different brands. Like, I'm
Mm,
like, yes, guys, like, let's see what you got. And so I see competition as your best friend because these other water companies obviously do as well. There's not just one out there and they like had to be, standing out. There's so many. And so what they had to do in order to get there is they got to distinguish themselves from every other person. And so they're constantly evolving and keeping up to date and keeping their standards and doing all of those things to be like, look at me. So that's
yeah.
what you should do as your business. Like, what is everyone else doing? But take it with a grain of salt. Not like they're like bad and evil, but like actually, heck yes, girl. Like you're doing like the cowgirl like disco look now for spray tanning. Go. Like let's see what you got next. You know what I mean? It's just like fun for me. Like that stuff is fun. I teach that to my students. Like if you're not looking at your competition as your best friend and you're looking at it as competition, you're not going to be good as an entrepreneur. Like you're going to get jealous. You're going to go downhill really fast because you should be creating relationships because those could be potential referrals during times they may go down themselves, need a break, mommy time, whatever it is. And I've done that with other businesses. They've reached out to me and been like, hey, can you take on these clients? Like I'm going to have a baby in a couple of months and I want to be able to like so that's how I see it.
Mm. No, I like that. I like that a lot. The how do I put this? At what point did you realize that what you were doing was no longer just going to be a little thing? It was actually building into something tangible, into a brand, if you will.
Hmm. Um, I think honestly from the get-go, because of my apparel background, I just knew that like I had, these like tight black leggings with like gold foil, writing. I just knew that it was a lifestyle brand because in Orange County, people always want to be tan. But healthy and young and anti-aging and glowing and all of these things that
Mm.
I thought the brand already was. And so early on, I knew that it had legs. And then when I would meet with people and I would talk about it, I'm like, I also know that I need a product because I know how to sell ice to an Eskimo. And I know that I have products that people want after their spray tan because they would
Yep.
constantly ask me, like, what do you recommend? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why don't I have my own private label brand to sell them? Because they keep asking me what I recommend. And if I had a whole line of things to sell to them, they would. So, yeah, you just have to believe in it when you rather start it or people start asking you what to buy.
Mm. Oh, I like that actually a lot. It's the instead of me sending them to someone else, I'm going to keep the client and they're benefiting from the way that they know what they're getting because I'm providing it.
Yeah.
And as the business owner, you're not going to provide something that you wouldn't stand behind.
Yep. A hundred
Mm, I
percent.
like it. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are scared to invest or even start their business?
Oh, this is my favorite. So I say this because I was talking to my student about this yesterday.
Mm,
I said, It's so crazy. And I think you can relate to this. Well, a lot of women will be able to relate to this because it's like the biggest thing I said when I first started my business. A lot of women will invest and figure out this is like the thing, and like visualize this if you're listening. A lot of people will figure out how to get that next BMW, especially girls, right? That
Yeah.
next Chanel YSL purse,
Mm-hmm.
that next like high-end gym membership because it's like this nice,
Thing.
these are all instant gratification things because they're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that at least in like the next couple of months or like the next year, maybe. That's even like long term for like what I'm about to bring up. So us humans, especially as females, because of just how we're wired, I feel like we will figure out ways to get the money for things that are temporary or they're just like right there or a $7 coffee. So these are just
Yep.
examples, right? Because I want people to visualize this. Because it's like the number one thing I say to people when I'm like, I don't ever like to take like a student's money. Like they need to want it. Like they're gonna figure it out or they don't have it.
Mm.
And so I'd say, because of like my price points for my academy, it's like we as humans are gonna figure out ways to get these things that are very like fashion, whatever, to like show off, but they won't spend the 2,000 to invest in themselves to possibly change their life.
Yes.
Like if you can think about that for a second, like you're gonna figure out how to get the BMW that's going to lose interest like right away. You're gonna be paying interest. Um, you're gonna figure out how to get the YSL purse, which I can understand because I love YSL and Chanel, so I use them as examples.
Mm.
But my point is, you're figuring out ways to temporarily look good, but you're not getting any appreciation on that. You lose depreciation on your car, you lose it on your purse, you lose it on all these things. You don't figure out how most of the time until we get the right avatar to get the money for yourself because it's actually you. And people are so afraid to invest in themselves because it's not immediate gratification. And what I always say is, what does your like 5-year plan look like? Are you gonna keep trying to figure out how to get more Chanel bags? Well, what if you invested in yourself for once? You can get 10 Chanel bags and not have to keep figuring out how to get a new Chanel bag every year. You can buy
Yeah.
10 at once if you wanted to, because this one investment in yourself for 2 to 10 grand, which is my price range, you will do. And I will show you and give you the tools to make that up in the next 3 months so that what
Mm.
you just invest in yourself right now, most successful students I have make that up in the next 3 to 6 months. So, because there's such high margins on spray tans. So I'm
Mm.
just like, always using that as an example to people when they're like, like, how do I do this investment? Like, what that question was. And that's why I say I love it. Because when I get students that actually understand that concept, because that's who I accept, I do discovery calls and I make sure like there's no like, I don't know. It's like, no, like they get it. They're investing in themselves. And this is the possible outcome if they follow XYZ to create the success for themselves. So, yeah.
I like it. So that kind of leads into my next thought, which is like, do you believe in the thought process of you have to spend money to make money?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm.
Like that's why I had to get 2 to 3 jobs at one time.
Yeah.
You gotta like get that money to put back in and
Mm-hmm.
it has to happen. Like you can keep working on what was doing, but like there's points where you're gonna have to put more money into marketing and the marketing is gonna 2x because it's gonna have a bigger broad reach to who it's
Yeah,
being targeted towards. So yes, I do.
I like it. If you had to distill everything that you learned from building this business into one core lesson, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. If I had to instill everything I've learned.
Mm-hmm. From building the business into one core lesson.
Ooh, the lesson would be there's been a lot. So, one core lesson I would say is ooh, burnout is real, but
Mm-hmm.
burnout is temporary.
Yeah.
And that temporary pain isn't forever. And when you're able to go through pain and be self-aware that it's a temporary part of the journey and know that you're going to get out of it and through it because you want your business to be something, it's gonna be the best thing you ever did and not give up. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people get burnt out and then they just forget the purpose and the vision and they want to just stay down. So getting up through that temporary pain is probably the best lesson I ever learned because I wanted to quit so many times. I've just been like, yeah, I'm burnt out because burnt out's a real thing, and especially in the beauty industry. It's just like, oh my gosh. We talked about it at one of the conferences too. And I said, I allowed myself to have some time to be like, I feel this pain. It's uncomfortable. I feel burnt out. It's okay that I am aware of it, but I'm not going to let it be my end because I still love and have this purpose with this business to make it bigger than what it currently is at. And all this energy that I put in to get to this point of this pain has to have a positive because the negative
Mm,
right now is the hardest part. So, yeah, just, getting kicked down 10 times and getting up 11.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's as someone who's experienced burnout, it's the not fun at all. And it takes a minute to come back, but
Yes.
it's why resting is important. I learned that the hard way,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Mm,
Especially in the industry you were in or still
yeah,
in.
yeah. If the version of you who started this journey could see you now, the challenges that you've overcome and the risks that were taken, what do you think she would say to you, and what would you say back?
Hmm. Ooh, the risks I've taken. I think she would say, I always knew it was in you, and it's been a very fun, wild journey. And um, the risks that I've taken have been worth it so far because um, I didn't let that pain that I was talking about earlier keep me down. Because I think a lot of people, when they're looking back and they're like, oh my gosh, what would you told your younger self? And it's just like, it gets better. Like it really
Yeah.
does. Because it doesn't feel like it's going to during like that pain that I keep like reiterating because it's
Mm-hmm.
like you when you're in pain, you feel it so intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I thought I was a pain girly. Like I thought I had a pain tolerance. So I thought it was pretty high, but I'm really proud of myself. So I would tell like that's the things I would tell her like, yeah, it's really worth it. Like you did it. Like it's still happening. I'm still going through it, like
Mm,
building the business and continuing, but um I'm proud of myself for not giving up because it's been a journey.
I like it. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining me today on the episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as everybody else sure will. And I look forward to seeing your continuous growth.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Let me stop that.